Welcome to 247 Real Talk. I'm your host, Julian Perry, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you for another episode, another week of the 247 Real Talk podcast. As always, I always check in with you to see how your past week was. I hope you had a great week. We're heading into summer here, like I said, in New York. I think summer is probably a little bit more than a week away officially. It is warm. This Friday, we should hit close to 90 degrees. We're expecting a lot of hot weather in the weeks to come, and I'm looking forward to it to get things done around the house before we have to pack it all in again for another winter. Huh? So I hope you had a great week. I hope you accomplished a lot. You feel empowered. You feel blessed. I hope you've been paying attention to the news and getting engaged in whatever area you feel fit, whether it be mental health, healthcare, criminal justice, politics, whatever. But being a part of something is important because being a part of nothing means that you make zero impact on your lives, the lives of others, and the lives of your children. This week, I'm going to talk specifically about two cases related to racism. I'm going to call them blatant racism. You know, every time we talk about this topic, people try to skirt around it and act. Many people try to act as if it doesn't exist or they can make excuses for it. But there's no way to make excuses for it. So sit back, relax, and I'll be right back with you. All right, I'm back and ready to kick it off for another week. I hope that when I say it won't be too long, that I'll actually stick to what I say this time, because most of the times when I intend for the episode to be, 20 minutes or whatever, we go past 30. But here we go. If you see me looking, for those of you YouTube, if you see me looking, glancing at the side, because I'm reading from a tablet in front of me, and I'm going to start with, like I said, I wanted to talk about two specific cases of racism, and hopefully when I'm done, I get a lot of feedback from you, whatever way you feel about it, but all the feedback and all the things we can do can make a difference based on what we're experiencing. So here we go. The first case is 3 black passengers sue American Airlines for discrimination after they were removed from flight over an alleged body odor. I'm reading this from people.com. There are many news outlets covering the story, but I read from different news outlets and I decided to use theirs, so I'm making a disclaimer. This is their rendition of the story. The plaintiffs and 5 other passengers, all black and male, were removed from the flight. The men didn't know each other and they were not seated together. This story is dated May 30th, 2024. So this is not old news, this is new news. 3 black men have filed a federal lawsuit against American Airlines, claiming that employees removed them from a flight because of a body odor complaint. According to court documents obtained by People, plaintiffs Alvin Jackson, Emmanuel Jean Joseph, and Xavier Veal were traveling from Phoenix to New York, JFK, New York, on January 5th, when they were allegedly kicked off of Flight 832. And they were not given any valid reason, but it seemed based solely on their race. They filed a complaint on Wednesday, May 29th, in the U.S. District Court of Eastern New York. And they're saying in the complaint that American Airlines engaged in blatant and egregious race discrimination when its employees removed Jackson, Joseph, and Veal along with 5 other black male passengers from the plane. The men were not traveling together and did not know each other. So let's pause there for a second. So this is not a scenario where they looked at a group of people and said, hey, the 3 of you guys are doing something wrong. They had to pick these 8 people from separate seats who were not seated together, who did not know each other, and kick them all off this flight. The lawsuit says that prior to takeoff, the airline representative approached each of them individually and ordered them off the plane immediately and without an explanation. As the lawsuit says, each of the plaintiffs, each of the black men, complied. And it was only when they reached the jet bridge that they realized that several other black men were also being removed from the plane for a total of 8. It appeared to them that America had ordered all of the black male passengers off of the plane. This is flight 832. And when they demanded an explanation from the airline employees, they were told that they were ordered off the plane because of a complaint about body odor. Let's stop there. So someone complains about body odor on an airline, a jet, a big plane. If you're complaining about someone's body odor, we would have to think that, and there's so many things wrong here. If I'm sitting next to someone and that person smells, I can call the storage society and say, look, I'm traveling on this flight. It's a long flight, and this person be next to me really has a body odor problem. If the airline feels that they have some policy that allows them to accommodate that, then obviously they would ask that specific passenger who the accusation or the complaint was made against to deplane, or they would deal with that individual passenger. You're not going to get a complaint of body odor, not determine where it's coming from, and arbitrarily order all the black male passengers off of the plane. The plaintiffs were told that the plaintiffs were not told that they individually or personally had body odor. And in fact, none of the plaintiffs, it was later determined apparently, had any kind of offensive body odor. When they pointed out that they had been singled out, one of the American Airlines employees says, I agree. And apparently that American Airlines employee agreeing with these black males that they had been singled out because they were black males was captured on video. They were allegedly told that they and 5 other passengers, this is the 3 black male who filed the lawsuit and the 5 other passengers, would be rebooked on a different flight. Now, stop there again. I don't, this is real talk. If I stink, if my body odor stinks on one plane, you're going to rebook me without saying anything about my body odor to fly on another plane so that what, you can get the same complaint again? If I stink, is my smell going to change because you took me off, left me in my stench longer to get worse, and then put me in another plane? After about an hour, the airline staff allegedly told them that because there were no other available flights, no other flights going to JFK that night, so somebody complains that somebody on a plane, an entire plane, smells. Someone decided, it had to be the airline, that they're going to get rid of all the black men on this flight because there must be one of them. When all the men get out and they see that it's all black men, an American Airlines employee says, on video, I agree, it looks like you guys are being singled out. Then they're told, you know what? You were taken off the plane because of body odor, but we're not buying you cologne, deodorant until you take a shower, pointing out any one of you smells. Matter of fact, it seemed that they acknowledged that none of the black men smelled badly. But we're going to rebook you on another flight. So we're going to inconvenience you, even though you've been embarrassed, you've been discriminated against, you've been pulled off this flight, you're standing there, everybody can see that you're these 8 black males, and now we're going to book you on another flight, even though we haven't done anything to address the odor problem. And after an hour and a half, American Airlines realized there's no other flight out to JFK, and they allowed them to get back on the plane. So now the plaintiffs are saying, of course, they had to endure stares, and the other passengers viewed them as the cause of the delay. Obviously, you pull. Have you ever been on a flight where the flight was delayed because of a passenger who came late? I've been on more than one time where the plane's late I'm tired. It's been a long day. Check in and all of that. I get on the plane. Now the plane's late because they're waiting for a passenger for some reason, whoever that passenger is. And they wait and wait and wait, and then that passenger gets on the plane. Everybody stares at that passenger, right? Because first of all, we have nervous flyers. We have flyers who have to make connections with other planes. People are on there, and for different reasons, they just want to get in the air and get on their way, and you delayed the plane. And so people stare you down. Now imagine 5 black men, and understand this. These, not 5, sorry, 8 black men, understand this. I want you to understand this concept clearly. These 8 black men were the only black men on the plane. So in addition to people staring at them because they were the cause of the delay, even though people on the plane might not have known except for the person who made the complaint, now everybody has to notice that it's 8 black men getting back on. Now I can tell you what some of the thought processes were on that plane. Because the fact that this was the only 8 black men on the plane means we either had, they didn't rule out the fact that there may have been black females, but we can also assume, based on the fact that these were the only 8 black men on the plane, the only black men, period, that people of other races were on the plane. So someone of a different race other than black complained, and it was assumed that it was the black people who were smelling. Now they're seen as causing the delay. But I can guarantee you somebody else on that plane said, oh, must have been drugs. Oh, they must have searched them. They must have thought they're carrying something illegal. Who are these men? They look like drug dealers. Why? Because they're black. So they suffered the entire flight home. And of course, they're saying the incident was traumatic, upsetting, humiliating, degrading. The lawsuit also accuses American Airlines of having a documented history of frequently subjecting black passengers and other passengers of color to differential treatment and bigotry, citing a 2017 NAACP travel advisory against the airline, which was lifted the following year. The men are seeking compensatory damages, and no amount has been listed. But let's think about this for a second, because it's deeper than that surface, right? I've already given you some deep points why this should be disturbing to anyone. But this is American Airlines. This is not JetBlue, Delta, any of the hundreds of other airlines from other countries in the world, where I can say I went on a European airline or a Caribbean airline or something and I was discriminated against. I'm an American. In America, an American Airlines is discriminating against me because of the color of my skin. What does that tell you about what's going on in our society? I have made the case here in this podcast numerous times that over the last 7, 8 years or whatever, we had a turn in this country where people were allowed to be openly prejudiced and racist, where things that we had fought against, where things that had been, I can't now say had disappeared, because it's obvious that since we're dealing with this in 2024, that when pressures were put on society and other races in society to stop discriminating against black people, the discrimination was not worked through, and we came to an understanding of acceptance. The discrimination was just put in a closet and locked away until it was allowed to rear its ugly head. You know where I'm going, but I'm not going to go there tonight in this episode. The point is, it was somebody opened the jail cell and let the discrimination out. Now, I understand the lawsuit. I understand why. But I'm telling you that every single American who claims not to be racist, who claims that there's no racism, if that is your position, then you should be very angry and you should be supporting these 8 black men who were on that plane and the people who filed the lawsuit, the 3 of them. Because imagine if that was done to you. Imagine if you were going to a country where the only airline went there was a black-owned airline. Imagine if you were non-colored. And for this, I'm going to simply say, when we say non-colored, we mean white. I'm not saying that necessarily the person who made the complaint is, but I'm saying that because they don't say who made the complaint. But imagine being, just to put yourselves in the shoes of what we deal with every day, people of color. Imagine you're getting on a plane that's predominantly black, that you're going to somewhere where the airline is predominantly black. You get on a plane with 200 and something odd passengers, 10 or 8 or 6 or what, let's use the same number, 8 white people. And someone gets up in the plane and says, "Ooh, it stinks. We got to get rid of this odor." And the solution is to order the 8 white people off of the plane. What is that first assumption? Obviously, someone racist, someone full of bigotry, has decided that those 8 white people are the source of the odor, of the stench. Now come back to this story. Only 8 black men on the flight, don't know each other, not seated next to each other. So they had to walk about this cabin and pick these 8 people, black men, and order them off the plane. And the men complied, only to find out that they were ordered off the plane because somebody basically said, "It smells in here. It must be those black people. Let's keep it real. This is real talk." You didn't order people who were dressed a certain way. These days, people go on planes and they wear flip-flops. So maybe somebody's feet smell. You didn't go about the cabin and look to see who was not wearing shoes and say, "Sir, could you get off the plane regardless of color, because there's a smell and it might be coming from your feet." Somebody made the conscious decision that the minute there was an odor in the plane, that the cause of that must have been black people. And then to boot, to make it worse, they ordered them off the plane, and then they don't smell anything with these men who are now together off the plane. And then an American airline employee agrees on video that they were singled out because they were black. I'm going to leave that right there, because what needs to happen now is you need to listen to that. You need to listen to this podcast several times if necessary. You need to do what you normally do and send me your messages now, and then tell me exactly what you think after I have read that to you. I'm trying to pull up this next story here now. Give me a second, okay. So, you guys remember the group The Four Tops? And this is from June 12th, which is today. It is June 12th right now, today, Wednesday, June 12th. It says, the headline, and this is I took this from CBS News. Four Tops singer sues Michigan hospital for racial discrimination, says they didn't believe his identity. Let's listen to this story. Listen to this story as I tell it to you. The lead singer of Motown's legendary Four Tops has sued a Michigan hospital for racial discrimination, claiming that he was treated like he was mentally ill and restrained after he told the staff that he was in the group. Alexander Morris went to Ascension Macomb Oakland Hospital in Warren on April 7, 2023 to receive medical treatment. He was taken to the emergency room by ambulance after he had difficulty breathing and chest pain, and was put on oxygen. He has a history of heart disease, including stents, and has had defibrillator. He told the nurse and the security guard that he was a member of the Four Tops and was concerned about stalkers and fans. Obviously, he's recognizable. He's going to the hospital. He's concerned that here he's in the hospital and stalkers and fans will crowd around him. But the workers didn't believe him. And a doctor, having heard him make this claim, rather than validate the claim, check his identity, whatever, immediately ordered a psychological evaluation and put him in a restraining jacket. Pause. Oh, and removed his oxygen and his belongings. So a doctor decided that this black man came into the hospital with chest pain and difficulty breathing. And because he said he was a member of the Four Tops, he had to be lying. So what's your solution? I don't check to maybe see who he is. I don't even check. Maybe the doctor didn't even know who the Four Tops were, because if he did, he might have recognized him. But instead, I say, no, this is a black man. He got to be crazy. I want a psychological exam. And you know what? Put him in a restraining jacket. You're restraining someone who came to a hospital for chest pain and difficulty breathing. Your medical response as a doctor is to put him in a restraining jacket. Does anybody see reason for the medical board to get involved here? The singer said, I will show you my identification to prove. He says, I will show you my ID to prove I'm the singer. And the security guard told him, get this, to sit his black ASS down. And I'm going to say the word. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to say it in this podcast. You never hear me speak like that. But it angers me so much when someone can say it. And obviously, sometimes people of color do that to people of color. But the distinction is being made here that it was not, because this is a racial discrimination suit. So imagine you go to a hospital. I can't breathe. My chest is hurting. I've got a history of heart problems. I get in there. Oh, the nurse, doctor, you got me in the open ward here. I'm the lead singer of the Four Tops. I don't want stalkers and all you coming around me. I can't take that kind of excitement right now. Doctor, this is what the man said. You know what? The guy has to be crazy. Get a psychological examination for him. Who the hell he think he is? Put him in the restraining jacket. Take away his oxygen that he's using because he has difficulty breathing. And you say, security, I have ID. I can prove who I am. He says, listen, sit your black ass down. Do we need any more evidence or any more story for, once we can prove this for a lawsuit? Let's keep going. The singer told the hospital staff that he was having trouble breathing and asked for his oxygen back. Now, if I go to the hospital, if I go to an ambulance, if I call 911 right now, and the ambulance shows up here and I says I have difficulty breathing, one of the first things they're going to do is put oxygen on me. They took his away because he said I'm the lead singer of the Four Tops, or the singer of the Four Tops. He's now asking them, he's saying, look, I can't breathe. Can I have my oxygen back? And they ignored him. After that, he says, could you remove this restraint jacket? And you took away my belongings. Could you give me back my stuff? I'll go to another hospital. But he was told he couldn't leave. Next thing you know, he gets surrounded by several security guards to make sure he can't leave. And all this time, he's having heart discomfort, heart related, hasn't been treated. The hospital and the nurse blatantly refused to provide the plaintiff with medical treatment due to his race and or perceived mental disability. Now understand, if you're a person of color, how insulted you should be that because you claim you're someone famous. I'm Denzel Washington. I'm Tay Diggs. I'm leader singer at the top, of the Four Tops. I'm, back in Michael Jackson. I'm, whatever. But because you're black and because I don't know of you, you must be crazy. You can't be actually famous and maybe wealthy. You have to be crazy because you're black, and how can you claim to be famous, right? Instead, the plaintiff received a deliberate misdiagnosis and received a lower standard of medical care based on his race that amounted to racial discrimination and delayed his actual diagnosis. The singer's wife later arrived at the hospital, and Morris told her that the workers thought he was delusional. She told the security guard that he was indeed a member of the Motown group, but the security guard did nothing. After that, a nurse arrived, and Morris asked if he could show her a video of him performing. Now imagine that. I'm in the hospital. I can't breathe. My chest is getting discomfort. I'm telling you that, look, I don't want people around who will recognize me. I want privacy. This is who I am. something that you would afford any celebrity. I'm so desperate, I'm saying, look, I'll reach to my phone and I'll show you a video of me performing because you don't believe me. That's desperation. The nurse then looked apparently at the video and realized that this is in fact a member of the Four Tops. She went and got the doctor and informed him. And then the emergency room doctor canceled the psychological evaluation. At this point, he had been restrained for 90 minutes. And he was offered a $25, compensation as an apology by the hospital for the dehumanization and discrimination he faced at the hands of their staff. After the incident at the hospital, the security guard who worked at the hospital told him that a security guard, who worked at the hospital told him that the guard who was in contact with Morris and had restrained him and made the racist comments to his coworkers had frequently used excessive force with hospital patients. This security guard also witnessed the other hospital employees tampering with evidence concerning an internal incident report that was filed, and he believed the account of the racial slur being used was removed from the report. The lawsuit alleges the employees were told not to talk about the incident and that the security guard involved was not suspended nor disciplined. So, when people of color say we face discrimination, these two cases that I relate to you are just two of thousands that happen around the United States in different forms every single day. But here we have two things that are so blatant. We have a plane full of passengers where only the black men were removed, not sitting together, not knowing each other, because somebody decided that since there's an odor on the plane, it's got to be these black men who are smelling. Then we have another case of the lead singer of the Four Tops, a famous man who's got to be pretty rich, right? Got to be decent, well off. And he was restrained. Now you go to the hospital, you say, my chest, I can't breathe. The last thing that should happen is you be restrained and your oxygen removed. If this is in fact found to be true, I want to know who the governing medical board is there. And if this is in fact substantiated and no longer alleged but true, then what are the actions taken with that doctor? Then what about the hospital and the security guard who used that derogatory statement, demeaning statement to this man? And then you put him in a restraint jacket when someone says they can't breathe. The last thing you do for someone who says they can't breathe and they have having a heart condition is restrain them. I'm going to tell you something real quick. Many years ago, after September 11th, the September 11 attacks, I wanted to learn to do something to be helpful to anyone who was in a tough situation. And I tried to figure out what I could do, and my solution was I went on weekends and evenings, and I took classes, and I became a New York State EMT. So I'm going to tell you, as someone who is qualified, who has an EMT medical number with New York State for life, the last thing you would do, even to someone who just committed a shooting, a crime, and who says they can't breathe, is to put a restraint jacket on them and take away their oxygen. In the case of someone who committed a crime, who shot someone, and who is now in some distress for whatever reason, usually they can handcuff them to the gurney. And if I am the treating EMT, when I show up and I feel I need to turn this patient or whatever, the law says I have the right to instruct the police officer to remove those handcuffs. So someone voluntarily comes to your hospital by ambulance, which means that there is a high percentage if you come by ambulance that you're in some form of distress. And what do? They decide that because you tell them that you are the lead singer of the Four Tops, that you automatically are crazy. They don't say, okay, sir, we'll make sure that we'll pull the blind. You know the blind around those rooms? to make sure that your privacy is kept, and then go on the side and say, "Hey, nurse, this guy says he's a leader for photographs. Let's Google it. This happened in 2023. Let's Google it and see what this guy looks like." Most of us Google everything somebody says to us. Oh, do you know that a snake is 100 feet long? No, really. Let's Google it. That's the automatic. Oh, do you know the sky is pink tonight? No. Let's Google it. They don't do that. The doctor orders a psychological evaluation. What level of racism do you have to have in your blood and in your being to decide that out of all the things you can do, for someone who's coming in saying, I have a history of heart disease, I'm in discomfort, I'm having a heart problem, and I can't breathe. Difficulty breathing, one of the things that you automatically look for, even as an EMT back then, was a heart problem. Because when you're having a heart problem and your blood's not pumping as it should, you have difficulty breathing because you're not getting enough oxygen. He can't breathe? He's having a heart problem? But he says he's lead singer of the Four Tops. Put him in a restraint jacket. All right, that's bad enough. I'm restrained. You know what? Take away his oxygen too. All right? He came in here because he has difficulty breathing. I don't care. Take away his oxygen. 90 minutes. That man could have died. Then, his security guard said, "Look, man, I'm telling you, sir, this is who I am. Sit your black ass down." Then a different nurse comes. I can imagine desperation. He says, "Nurse, this is who I am. I will show you a video. Let's go online." The same Google or whatever. He pulls up a video on his phone. She sees them performing and realizes it's him. She goes and tells the doctor. They remove the restraints after 90 minutes. Give him back his belongings, I get at that point. And then he cancels the psychological exam. If that gentleman is still a doctor, if that doctor, they didn't say male or female, but they said he, so it's a doctor. If that doctor is still a doctor practicing, something is wrong, even worse than we can imagine. So I wanted to highlight those two stories because that's what we deal with in today's world of discrimination. Even when you're a celebrity and colored, you don't get a pass. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know your stories. Tell me your most egregious violations you faced. Tell me, I don't care who you are. I've had someone on this show who talked about her appearance, and she was white, and I wonder if I can contact her. It's one of my early episodes to bring her back on the show to talk about racism because it's so relevant now. Let me know how you feel or what you've experienced. Email me at podcast@247realtalk.net. Those who know me better, send me the WhatsApp. Do whatever you usually do. I don't want to leave the episode without thanking my continuous subscribers, the growth of subscribers, and I implore you to subscribe, to like, to comment, and please share the podcast. I'm making great progress in terms of building a base. And when I build a base and people are subscribing more and more, then the voice is going to get louder. What I talked about in this episode, it is evident that something needs to be done, that a change has got to come, or our children will face something tenfold worse than we're facing now. It's time for a change. We have to make it now. Whatever that means to you in contributing to make a change so that we are treated equally. So that someone doesn't go to a hospital with a heart condition and difficulty breathing and get told that he's a madman and restrained and oxygen taken away and belongings taken away because he's black. So that someone doesn't go sit on the plane and they're told to get off because there's a smell on the plane, so it's automatically it has to be you because you're a person of color. A change has to come, and it has to start now. I want to thank you ever so much, as always, for being a part of my podcast, a part of my audience, for continuously encouraging me to highlight these things. I'm going to continue to bring more stories from the news and relevant stories as we tackle those big challenges of today. We have to stand up. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. Continue to enjoy the beautiful weather if you're here in the Eastern Seaboard or wherever you are. I've got listeners all over the world, Australia, Europe, wherever you are. We're thankful that you're here, that you're a member of the audience. I thank God every day for my life and for yours. Please have a wonderful week ahead. Until the next time we speak, please take care of yourselves and do take care of each other.